Once there was a farmer who was always happy and carefree. No one had ever seen him in despair. He never worried and was always smiling. One day, a terrible storm struck, destroying all the crops in the fields. The farmers in the village were now anxious. Seeing their harvest ruined, they were all disheartened. Despite the losses, this farmer remained cheerful and continued to smile. He had no worries about his lost crops. Seeing this, the other farmers said, "What is this? Everyone's harvest in the village is ruined, and we are all anxious about it, but you are the only one who seems completely unconcerned and happy. How is this possible?" Hearing their words, the farmer replied, "What is there to be disheartened about? You should learn to always be happy." Hearing his words,
What is there to be
farmer
happy
said,
about?
"What is there to be
With so
disheartened
many
about?
losses,
How can we
you should
remain
learn
joyful?
to
Always be happy. We don't even know what we will eat next or how we will spend the coming days. What we had is no longer available. Tell us the truth, don't you worry about any of this? How can you be so cheerful in every situation?" The farmer smiled and said, "Oh friends, stop worrying. Learn to always be happy and keep smiling." People said, "All right, let's try to be happy. But to be happy, there should be some reason, right?" The farmer replied, "If we start worrying about everything, children's worries, studies, and what will happen after finishing studies, aren't we just acting like little children? If that's the case, how can a person ever be happy? You tell me." The farmer said, "Being happy in any situation is an art. Having fun is a personal choice." The townspeople then asked, "All right, can you teach us this art? How can we always remain happy and joyful?" The farmer replied, "Yes, I can teach you how to be happy. But first, let me tell you a story. Listen. It's a story from my childhood. Once, I was traveling with my father through the forest on our way to the city. We had to sell our crops to the city's merchants. My father was very worried. We had little money left at home, and selling the harvest was our only option. As we journeyed through the forest, evening fell, and soon darkness began to surround us. We could not see the road ahead. On top of that, it started raining heavily, just like today. At one point, the wheel of our cart got stuck in the mud. My father tried to free the wheel from the mud, but he couldn't. We kept trying, but in vain. We were utterly exhausted. There seemed to be no way to pull the wheel out of the mud. By then, we were also hungry and thirsty. Fear started to grip me. I told my father, "Dad, I'm very scared." To this, my father said, "There's no need to worry when I'm with you. Why are you afraid?" But his words had no effect on me, my fear only grew. We could hear the sounds of wild animals coming from the forest, and those noises in the middle of the forest stillness made my heart race with fear. My father spoke again, "Don't be afraid. Let's spend the night here. Once morning comes, we will try to free the cart from the mud." The issue wasn't about tomorrow, it was about how we would get through the night. We were very hungry, and there seemed no way to satisfy our hunger. We had already eaten all the food we had brought on our journey. Just then, we saw a faint light flickering in the distance. Seeing it, my father said, "You sit here comfortably. I'll go check if we can get some help." Saying this, he walked towards the light. My father went in that direction, and I stayed behind, sitting there, crying in fear. After some time, I saw my father returning with a saintly figure. The man was strong and well-built. The three of us then put all our strength into pulling the cart, and finally, the wheel came out of the mud. My father thanked the saint, and we set off once again on our journey. The saint also gave us some food to eat. As we continued our journey, I noticed a piece of paper in my father's hand. Curious, I asked, "Dad, what's that in your hand?" But my father didn't reply, and we kept moving forward. He didn't tell me what the saint had given him. My curiosity grew, and I asked again. This time, he simply said, "It's nothing. It doesn't concern you. Time passed as we traveled, and I couldn't resist asking again. What is written on that paper? Why won't you tell me? Finally, my father looked at me and said, when I'm no longer in this world, you can open this paper and see. But remember one thing, whatever is written there, keep it in your memory for your entire life. Never forget it. I nodded. The townspeople then said, that's fine, but why shouldn't we worry? Isn't it natural to be anxious when we've lost so much? The farmer smiled and replied, yes, it's natural to worry when things go wrong. But worrying endlessly only drains you and keeps you stuck, just like our cart was stuck in the mud. That night, we could have remained in fear, but my father's calmness gave us strength. He trusted that the situation would resolve, and it did. With patience, help came. Life will always have its challenges, losses, and uncertainties. But the real art of happiness lies in trusting the journey, in knowing that worry won't change what has already happened. If you focus on moving forward, help will come, and things will get better. What my father carried that night was a lesson for me, to live without letting fear or worry take over. And that is the art I want to teach you. Happiness is not about avoiding hardships, but about how you navigate through them. The farmer said, can any of you fix the crops that have been ruined? The people replied, no, it's not possible. The farmer asked again, can you turn day into night? Once again, the people said, no. The farmer continued, can you stop the wind? Can you make it rain? The people responded again, no, we can't stop the wind, nor can we make it rain. We're not God. Then the farmer said, so, if that's the case, why worry? What will you gain by worrying about things that are beyond your control? Hearing this, the people began to think. Isn't that true? They said. What good will come from worrying about these things? The farmer added, when something is not in our hands, what is the point of worrying about it? Instead, practice being happy no matter the circumstances. Learn to live joyfully, laughing and smiling through life. That is how happiness will come into your life. This message struck the villagers deeply, teaching them that happiness comes from accepting what they cannot control and focusing on living joyfully despite challenges. All the farmers agreed with the wisdom of the farmer's words. They then asked, but what was written on that paper? Did you ever open and read it? The farmer replied, yes, after my father passed away, I was overwhelmed with a deep sense of loss. Nothing seemed to be going right in my life, and I had no idea what to do. I wasn't skilled enough in farming, and I had no other work. I felt utterly lost. Then, I remembered the paper. I thought, let me open it and see what is written. When I opened the paper, it was as though my eyes were opened too. The farmers eagerly asked, what was written on it? Tell us. The farmer said, there was just one sentence written on that paper, this too shall pass. At first, I didn't fully understand what it meant. So, to understand it better, I went back to the same saint who had given it to my father. I asked him, this paper says, this too shall pass. What does it really mean? The saint smiled and said, yes, this time will pass. I was confused and said, you're just repeating what's written. But what does it truly mean? The saint calmly explained, it means that no matter how difficult or joyful a moment is, it is temporary. Just like a bad phase will eventually end, so will a good one. Life is always changing, so don't cling too tightly to any moment. Understand that everything is fleeting. Accept this, and you will find peace. Don't worry too much in bad times, and don't become too attached during good times. Everything is a phase, and this too shall pass. The farmer paused, then said, that's the greatest lesson I learned. Whether in moments of joy or sorrow, remember that time moves forward, and nothing is permanent. So, live without excessive worry or attachment. This wisdom will bring you lasting peace. I got angry, the farmer continued. I said, what kind of words are these, Swami? I'm asking you for the deeper meaning of these words, and you keep repeating the same thing. Please explain the real significance. Then the sage said, right now, you are filled with despair and anxiety. You don't understand. This time will pass. The situation won't remain like this forever. After some time, everything will be alright. Things will change. The clouds of hopelessness will drift away. That's why you should always keep this phrase in mind. No matter how bad the situation is, it will pass. You don't need to worry. Look at yourself. Look at your hands. Keep trying, again and again. No matter the situation, it will change. You can't control everything. Yet you are worrying unnecessarily and making your troubles worse. Worrying won't solve anything. Time will pass on its own. So, why worry about what you can't control? No matter what circumstances a person is in, they should always have dreams. A person without faith and belief cannot live a joyful and happy life. Faith is very important in life. That moment changed my life. I never forgot those words for the rest of my days. Now, no matter what happens, I don't worry. I work, I try, and I do my best to improve the situation. But I don't waste time thinking about things beyond my control. What's the point of worrying about them? That's why I am always happy, and this is what I want to tell you as well: be happy, practice this habit. Don't worry too much. Life goes on, it moves forward, and what comes will pass. Dear friends, if you like this story, please give a thumbs up. Your encouragement is what drives us to come up with different stories. If you are new to the channel, please subscribe to channel and encourage.